Okay, it's the 23rd of November, and Trump has announced that he is giving consent for the transition team to go ahead and do what's necessary. States he's still going to fight. The reality for many of us is coming to a head that has to be faced. I think we all know, without question, this election was stolen. There's corruption beyond measure. I think we all remember what we see on election night, and we know what's going on. The question is, are we going to really allow this? Because if we do, you do realize all of us, if this goes on, I believe there's going to be tens of thousands minimum, possibly hundreds of thousands, I'm hoping, will rise up and say no to this and take our position as Americans to do what we have to do to restore our country as it was intended to be. Because it's pretty clear right now what's taking place is an attempted coup. Okay, they're attempting to overthrow our country through a corrupt election by just waiting us out. And they're doing it. They're doing it. The media is behind them. The social media is behind them. This is obviously the elitists who feel their prestigious position of wealth and power exceeds that of the common American. They're all out of control. They have control of everything. The media, the internet, the news. And all there is we the people and our president and the few people who are with our president that know what's going on. And our military, I hope. But we have to wake up and realize and face the reality of what's taking place and what's about to take place. We have two people who are in favor of socialism about to take place and open the borders to our country and undo everything that's been done to secure this country. It's been 4 years since the Muslims were attacking Americans on our ground. It's greatly reduced the human trafficking across the border. Drug trafficking has been greatly diminished in this country. All of these things prior were allowed by both Democrat and Republican administration. Many rhinos right now, it's pretty clear. The majority of the Republican Party, in all honesty, when I look, is disgraceful. It's nothing but a bunch of worthless, paper-brain educated idiots, assholes, who are lawyers and doctors who couldn't make it in the real world. They got their law degree or their degrees and they went into politics because they couldn't make it. Like AOC, obviously, an economics degree, working as a barmaid. Obviously, an educated idiot. Because if she had any skill and wisdom of what to do with that knowledge, she'd have been hired by a firm and not a bartender. Same with all these people right now that are in Congress. Lifelong sitting for decades now. 5 decades, 4 or 5 decades, some of them 40, 50 years now, sitting up there collecting high-paid welfare checks because they have no career outside of that in the world. And the majority of Republicans are lip service. They're all up there. I mean, there's good people in our government. I know there's good, true Americans in our government, and there's been a lot come in the last 4 years. But the majority of what we have sitting in Congress has been sitting there for a long time, and they're ass sitters. They're worthless. They have no balls whatsoever, and they don't care. They really don't care. They're lazy, disgraceful, self-serving people who don't care, no more than the Democrats care. But behind these people are the real people who I'm concerned about. China. The totalitarian Islamic states, the evil totalitarian regimes of this world that are watching right now. And if we, the American people, you see, for 244 years, they didn't fear this government. They feared the American people. And we have allowed this government to allow into our country and our own government body right now, members of foreign totalitarian regimes and communist regimes. Obviously, it's unquestionable when you look at the colleges, the schools, the indoctrination that's been taking place, the dumbing down of society. I mean, you watch like Caitlin Bennett. She does these interviews on the beach with these kids, and she does them at colleges where she asks basic questions. Who was the first president of the United States? What do we celebrate the 4th of July for? What year did we claim our independence? Not a one knows. There's some that they get it, but alarmingly how many have no damn clue. Just a bunch of ungrateful, lazy, disgusting, worthless people that don't even count their blessings to be an American. Don't even take it's not even worth their time. It's disgraceful what we've let this nation come to and what we have allowed the American people. This is why what's happening is happening. Well, I got news for you. I didn't start attending school until I was near 13 years old. And I taught myself to read when I was very young, just turning 5. And I spent my life studying and knowing who I am as an American, and proud to be an American. And I had intended that my kids would grow up with liberty and freedom as Americans, and my grandkids. And I'm just right now surreally looking at what is taking place, watching the news pulverize people with, Biden is the, and we know, I'm sorry, you got to be a blind goddamn idiot fool if you think this is all on the up and up. I'm sorry, it's not. And I'll tell you what, in all honesty, if it was, which it's not, this was a stolen election. I don't care what anybody says. The American people aren't that stupid. And even now, I know from what I know of in the state, and then I was at Washington, D.C., I spoke with people from all 50 states that came to the Washington, D.C. rally, Stop the Steal. And the surprising thing was, I spoke to many Democrats who had voted for Trump. And they were upset, and they believe something's wrong. And I'm talking lots of Democrats. Because most Democrats are Dinos, Democrat name only. They became Democrats because that's what their uncle said they were, or their father said they were. And they were led to believe that Democrats are the social warriors for the immigrants and minorities in this country, which is the furthest thing from the truth. They're evil people, and they've always been evil enemies within, and they always will be. And it's pretty clear. We should have never allowed them back into our government after the Civil War. The majority of people today don't even understand that the last Civil War of 1861 was between Republicans and Democrats. Most don't understand that the Democratic Party was formed out of an elitist, snobbish, no-good, disgusting people who thought they were better than everybody. The remainders of what was known as the British Loyalists, the Tories. They were the people who formed the Democratic Party in 1828 as a pro-slavery party to keep slavery legal and expand it. Because after the Revolutionary War, they became the majority of landholders and slaveholders in this country, because all the lands they were managing for King George III, they claimed as their own after the Revolutionary War. And they became the biggest plantation owners and the biggest slave owners in this country. And they pursued to try and overthrow the Patriots from the very beginning. We were at civil conflict with them all the way up till the Civil War. Tarring and feathering, hanging them, constant shooting and divisiveness between them. They formed the Democratic Party in 1828 as a pro-slavery party to try and fight politically. They started to move in to try and do things politically. All the way up until that point, they had many divisive parties. They tried the Whigs, the Federalist, the Democratic Republican Party, you name it. But in truth, in all honesty and truth, of which every American that has read the Constitution knows, the Constitution only consents to one form of government in this nation, a Republican form. It was Benjamin Franklin, or Thomas Jefferson said when he was asked, what did you give us? He said, a republic, if you can keep it. If you can keep it. And I think our founders, in realizing that we probably would come to this point, made sure that we would have a constitutional right to keep it. And that's what I want to exercise, my constitutional right. You see, we don't have an authoritarian government. This government is not an authoritarian government. It's a government of service at our consent, we the people. The Declaration of Independence states clearly that what we would consent to for a government, of the people, for the people, by the people. Okay? And it would be one of by our consent. The Constitution, now, we claimed our independence in 1776. We drafted the Constitution in 1789. In 1789, that Constitution would lay out the groundwork and the rules of what we would consent to in giving authority to a government. And that government wouldn't be an authoritarian government over us. It would be a government entrusted to do the duty that we charge it with. Build the roads, build the bridges, build the schools, build the railroads, secure a military, make sure we have military bases, a large navy, and all that we need to protect ourselves. And to handle the budget of what the cost would be as our nation grows. This is their job. Their job isn't to legislate and dictate what we the people can and cannot do. And in this past year, we have witnessed so many state governors acting in like a totalitarian authoritarian position and dictating what we the people can and cannot do through governors' orders and what have you, as if it was like laws. And police going in, this is scary, like the brown coats, of Nazi Germany, and it's disgusting because, I've been watching for years, and I've been now, with technology's advancement, you see the videos on YouTube, you have all these cops, and So many times in these videos, I see these cops when someone raises, I have a Fourth Amendment right, I don't have to answer that, or I have the right to remain silent. And the cops, you're one of them constitutionalists. Any cop who says that should be fired immediately, because obviously that's a person that's a danger. Because you know what? Anybody entrusted in government has to take an oath to the Constitution. There's a reason, because the Constitution is what authorizes them to be, and that goes for the police and the sheriff as well. Any law enforcement is authorized to be by the Constitution. That's what regulates every law enforcement. Now, when you act in contempt of the Constitution, so ignorant that you don't even know the Constitution, but yet you're acting under the authority it consents you, you're dangerous. And that's what these people are. They're dangerous. And I see when we were up there in Washington, D.C. last weekend, we had an incident where the cops came in Washington, D.C., corporate city police, and started to pretty much exercise their authority, and got to a point where they arrested 4 people for minor, infractional things, drinking open container or something that all of a sudden they imposed out of nowhere. Everybody was at a local bar right there drinking the whole day, but all of a sudden that moment, it was like, that's it, we're going to start locking people up. They did this because they know most Republicans are law-abiding, and we do back the blue, constitutional officers. We want law and order. We want our Constitution. But these people clearly acted to take for granted that they knew that the Republicans would obey the officers and do what's right. And they took advantage of 4 people to make an example and arrested these people, totally acting and testing. And this is just an abuse. This is an abuse. And it's disgraceful. Any officer, any cop that's doing this, you're a disgrace to this country. You're a treasonous fucking traitor. I don't care. I've had it. And people, you got to wake up. We all got to wake up and realize what's coming. And either we're about to surrender our country, because the Democrats in the last 50 years have been preparing for what they're doing right now. They have allied it with the world's foreign totalitarian and communist regimes. They're allied with China and the totalitarian regimes of the slave states of the Islamic Muslims. These people, they have allowed them to come into our country and take up positions within the House, the Senate, the Congress of our government. Through the Democratic Party has allowed foreign interest government agents to come and infiltrate and take position in our government to dictate our legislation. And these people right now are in full control. They have full control. All the elected people of Democrat and Republican right now are bought and freaking paid for. We have very little real government in the Republican Party, and we have 0 in the Democrat. All that's in the Democrat is educated, paper brain idiots. Total freaking idiots. Egotistical idiots. Disgraceful, treasonous fucking traitors to this country that have put my children, my grandchildren, and your grandchildren at threat of being slaves sometime in the short near future. Because these people are just egotistical, worthless, disgusting, perverted, sick scumbags. And they don't even realize, in the sense that if we were to rise up and not allow this to happen and prevent it and restore our nation like it was supposed to be, under a single government form of a republic form like Lincoln tried to do, we would be sparing these people as well. Because if this takeover happens, I can assure you, they'll be cutting the heads off of all these people in government that think they're going to be an authoritarian part of the New World Order they're trying to usher in here on us. These people will be the first to get their heads cut off. Because once they're done with them, just like in Nazi Germany, when Hitler was done with the teachers, they executed them. And he replaced them with his Nazi indoctrinators. You see, history is very important, and history is very clear about how it goes on. The thing we got to remember in this country, we're 244 years frickin' new. When you look at something like Arabia, they've been around for 6,000 years doing this. 6,000 years. We're 244 years new. When you look at China, China has a history that goes back 9,000 years. When you look at the totalitarian Islamic states, one of the newest of a totalitarian regime to rise, 1,400 years. I'm just saying, you have to realize we're the new kids on the block here. In America, when it was formed in 1776, and we claimed our independence and we built this nation, we shook the world. And at that time, the world was a world of totalitarian superior rulers, dictators, demigods, pharaohs, insane people who wanted to rule the world and enslave all humanity to serve them. That's what existed. Kings Kings who claim they have elitist royal blood ordained by God, as if they're better than everybody else. America, we said no to all of that. Our Declaration of Independence was not a welcome mat for the world to come in here and walk on us and kick sand in our face. The Declaration of Independence is very clear, was a to the whole world, kiss our ass. That's what it said. It told the whole world, we're going to do what we want to do by the self-evident rights God given to us to be able to do. We're going to pursue our happiness and pursue our dreams, unrestricted, because we claim our independence. And we were willing, and the people who gave us this great land put their life on the line and fought, and thousands died to ensure that this country would be born. And following that, that battle continued. We had the Second Revolutionary War in 1812, where Britain came in again and tried. And mind you, in 1812, it was the people who founded the Democratic Party aided and assisted them again in the second attempt to take over, of which we should have gotten rid of these people a long time ago. And following, most people don't know, but if you do your history, Abraham Lincoln, after we won victory in the Civil War, had abolished the Democrats from our government and suspended any right for them to vote in any of our elections. And pretty much they had what was known as the Wade-Davis Act. And the Wade-Davis Act was going to require the Dinos, the citizenry who were Democrats, to swear an allegiance to the United States and to the Republic of the United States in our Constitution. Of which, if you weren't willing, then you could leave the country. We would deport you. You go to a country that of your home origin, or whatever country would accept you, but you had to leave, or we'd kill you. That was going to be the deal. Abraham Lincoln had the majority of the Confederate Democratic Party's Confederate Army in prison, sentenced to be executed, including Jefferson Davis. But you know what? They killed Abraham Lincoln. Now, the sad part is Lincoln wanted the Wade-Davis Act to abolish the Democratic Party and restore us back to a single Republican form of government with a single party. So we didn't have a diverse issue and divisive matters dividing our country by government. You see, because we are founded as a republic. And the Constitution only authorizes a Republican form of government. One single government. That's it. Like I said, it doesn't matter. We don't need multiple forms. We don't need different fascists of government, because our government's not an authoritarian government. Our government's not a ruling over us government. Our government's not something that's there, conquering us, our inward enemies of ours on our own land. Our government's there as a service provider to us. You know who the strength, the backbone, the endurance, and the perseverance of holding this country is? It's not the government. It's we, the people. The government's only there as a service provider to us. Our military is an extended branch of the home militia, us, the American people, an armed nation, of one people of all equal. That Second Amendment is so important, and it's the only amendment in the Constitution which has a clause that says shall not be infringed, and there's a reason for that. The reason the Second Amendment has a clause that says shall not be infringed is because that one right guarantees and protects every other right. It's so amazing how even our short-term history, back just 1978, we forget what happened to Iran. If you want an idea of what's coming here, just look at Iran in 1978, because that's what's happening here soon. You see, prior, when we established this country, one of the first foreign countries to replicate us was Australia. Australia pretty much took our United States Constitution and verbatim didn't put Australia at the top. They had pretty much the same exact constitution as us. And Iran had done the same thing. Iran had a constitution near verbatim to us, except Iran did not have one thing. They didn't have a Second Amendment. But they were our ally, and we were supposed to protect them. And the Shah of Iran had his own military force, but obviously not very strong. And the people weren't armed. You see, he feared, as a regime, to allow his people to be armed, that they might rise up and overthrow him, is what all totalitarian and monarchies of kings and queens and superiorists think. That's why they don't want the people armed. They just want to be in control of the arms themselves. Well, while he was out of country, the Muslims took advantage of the opportunity to invade Iran and overthrow it. And the people there had no choice. And at that time in this country, we had a treasonous, no-good scumbag named Jimmy Carter as the president. And rather than Jimmy Carter going and sending our forces in to aid Iran, he did nothing. He let the Muslims go and drag literally thousands of people into the street and cut their heads off, terrorizing the godsmack out of all the population of Iran, raping the women, killing the men, cutting their heads and arms and feet off. I mean, it was a disaster, disgusting what took place in 1978 that no one talks about, the horrors that took place in Iran. But there's people alive this very day, because 1978 isn't that long ago, my age, that remember probably what it was like to be free before Iran was invaded. And those people right there are praying. Their only hope was ever for America to come back and liberate them. We have some, I watch Annie Cyrus. She's an Iranian woman that came here, escaped the Iranian totalitarian Islamic slave states, and she speaks out against them. And she tries to warn Americans about the truth of what takes place there. She was raised her whole life under Sharia law. And her grandparents and her family of older remembered Iran when it was free, and she had knowledge of those things. And she wanted so much, and she's been so blessed by God to come to America. But now the poor girl is in fear because she sees what's coming here. She sees what's happening. The same as with Sandra Solomon in Canada. She's been watching and seeing this happen. Many immigrants right now in Cuba, Miami, the Cubans are in fear in Miami right now because they see what's happening. Like Enrique of the Proud Boys. He understands his family history, and the Proud Boys, to him, I'd like to say, in Washington, it was good to see you, Enrique. I'm glad. I'm pretty sure you may remember. I know you've seen a lot of people. I told you we spoke once before on the phone briefly, and you guys did an amazing job. You're very organized. I've been trying to, with certain patriot groups now for several years, to get us organized, and we have not been able to organize as well as you guys are in discipline. Hats off to you. We're going to need you. And we're going to need everyone like the boys that are the men who are with you. And I'm telling you right now, there's many out there. Many, many tens of thousands of good men, which we've seen in Washington. Hundreds of thousands of good men. We only need 3%. I'm a 3%er. Everybody's got a different name. You're the Proud Boys. I got a 3%. Everybody goes by something different. Minutemen, you name it. But we all need to come together now as Americans and realize that our nation's under attack right now in a political takeover through a corrupt electional process. Our president is alone right now. All the media, the news, and even the Republican Party itself is filled with nothing but a bunch of disgusting, disgraceful, treasonous goddamn rhinos. These people are disgraceful. And we're going to have to take our place here. And we're going to have to make a decision, and we're going to have to make that decision soon. Are we going to allow this? Are we going to live the rest of our lives in a delusional bubble, slowly watching ourselves transform into a socialist totalitarian regime? Eventually watching everyone slip under the control of the world's totalitarians, because that's what's going to happen. I think everyone here knows, anyone of common sense I would think knows, and any military man knows looking at this, the right now, Joe Biden, Harris, these people in Congress with the Democratic establishment, the lazy, worthless, disgusting, what we call Republicans in our party up there, you know as well as me, the totalitarian regimes will come in and eat these people alive. Why do you think they're doing what they're doing? They're freaking cowards. All the Muslims would have to do is show them one beheading video, and they'll flip in a freaking heartbeat and do whatever they're told. You know that as well as I do. That's where this all comes down to. I'm not. You guys, at combat, I get it. Believe me, I get it. I was one of my younger days, I was an advocate against pedophilia and human trafficking with unofficial team of guys. We just didn't like pedophiles, and we didn't like human trafficking. I've been into Mexico and seen what they do to their rivals. I've seen, the dismemberment of people. I know the ugly of what just lies on the other side of that border. I know. And as far as understanding fighting for your life, I know. When I was younger, I was 21 years old. I was one of the first people in the country to have the Second Amendment infringed. I was 21 years old, and I didn't know that New Jersey had changed the law and required a concealed weapons permit. I'd carried a gun all my life in Jersey. Matter of fact, since I was 8 years old. My first gun given to me was my brother gave me, a small little hand .32. I learned to shoot with that gun with blank bullets in it until I could hold it steady, and then I got real bullets. But, I didn't know. And I had an incident where the cops were called and I got arrested on a domestic issue. And being I had a gun, I wound up having to do 18 months in prison. First time in my life being arrested like that. 18 months in prison. And as a God-loving, American-loving Christian man in prison with a Muslim majority population, believe me, I know what war is like. I know what it's like to fight for your life. Because I'll tell you what, I went in a proud, strong Christian American, and I came out a proud, strong Christian American. It didn't break my ass. And I made it clear, and I fought my ass off in there to make it clear. I am who I am, and I'm going to stay who I am. This is my country. If I'm in jail or I'm free, it's my goddamn country. And it's still my country. I just need to know where we are. And I'm not afraid to make this video. We shouldn't be afraid in our country to speak our mind as Americans. And if we have to be afraid, that more gives us reason we have to do what we have to do. If the law enforcement in this country is going to side with this government and its actions of what it's doing, it's no different than the Nazi browncoats. And sadly, if we have constitutional officers, the sheriffs, they're going to side with the people. And we have our military. I'm almost 100% sure the military is going to side with the people. That's our sons, our daughters, our nieces, our nephews. I have nephews right now in the military. If the government thinks you're going to get my nephews and everybody's families, their sons, their daughters, and everything, to come after us, their parents, and their families, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. You may have indoctrinated, doped up, and zombied out the posterity of your Democratic districts and what you've done to these kids in this country. You got them so confounded they don't know what bathroom to use or what sex they even are. You stole their identity, their pride, their dignity in being American. You made them feel like ashamed of who they are. You demeaned the black population in this nation down to be nothing but criminal element, trapped within a ghetto of nothing but drug-riddled, crime-infested freaking ghettos. You stole any inhibition of them for hopes of a dream as well, and trying to destroy the pursuit for happiness of people in this country. But you did not destroy the majority. You just did that to a minority. And I'm pretty sure that right now, me as a father and a grandfather and somebody who had family members that fought in the war, people I'm thinking of right now, I got people I know that are long-standing good friends of mine. I've known people from all the wars, World War II, the Korean War. My ex-father-in-law was Korean War. I've heard the stories from thousands working down here in Florida. I've had the honor of meeting so many men. Vietnam War. I know people right now, Vietnam War, who are just great American men that I cannot imagine what is going to happen to those men if we of able body do not defend this nation and these men. Are we going to really let this happen? Because, you can see right now what's going on here. I see it. I don't know how many are how far this is going to go, but it's going. And I understand we all said we'd stand back and wait and see what the courts decide. And we're still going to do that. We're going to do that. Because it's still, right now, I think even with Trump's team, they don't want so much to be in state court. They want this to go to the Supreme Court. And that will be our last hope. I do remember my first book I read in the Constitution, which I have original copy of one of the first hard copies of the Constitution ever written. And I remember a part in there where it stated that the different branches of government were secure, and that if the legislative tried to do the thing that violated the Constitution and the rights of the American people, there would be an upright judge who would see this, and they would correct it and set a precedent that all other judges would have to follow that would resecure those rights. The Supreme Court's our last line. It's our last line of defense. The question is, these are, like, when we look at the Supreme Court, we don't have people on the Supreme Court. These people aren't like the Republican Marcellus Cassius Clay. The Supreme Court is a bunch of soft people who went to law school and were lawyers, and now they're judges, and these people don't know the true reality of what it is. I see it, and I think we all know. We all see it in circuit and district courts and across this country. The reality is, you threaten to kill a person's family, decapitate their daughter, their sons, their mothers, their aunts, their uncles, their brothers, their sisters. People become very coward. And we already know right now threats are being made across the board from the Democrats, threatening lawyers already on Trump's team. They pulled out. We know right now electors of the states are being threatened. And it's by this intimidation all through the Democratic Party, with not so much the Democratic Party, That party right now in control for the majority of the elitist little scumbag traitors that are in the Democratic Party feel all emboldened and empowered because of their foreign allies. The totalitarian Islamic Muslims are the ones making the threats. China's, street gangs too. They have gangs that are just as brutal. I mean, disgustingly brutal for what I have never physically. I've seen what they've done in Mexico with cartels. I've witnessed with my own eyes going across the Mexican border, and had the displeasure of having to actually witness what they do to rivals live. I've seen them with my own eyes. I know the ugly, and I know some on Border Patrol and the people who handle the border, what they see and they find. They know what I'm talking about. I've seen it. I know. I've worked, like I said, with a team doing trying to prevent human trafficking, and we did that for many years. And I've had the unfortunate events of being involved in such things that I've seen things I wish I never had to see. But I can't imagine happening to my kids. Now, don't think that scares me, because I get upset when I think about it, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not a fear of you freaking scumbags who do this. If it's got to come to it, let's get it done. That's what I'm saying. Let's get it done. I'm willing and able now, but 20 years from now, 15 years from now, I might not be able to fight. And in 15 years from now, we ain't going to have nothing but a bunch of binary beings that don't know what the hell they're even doing. Okay? We're going to have to raise this next generation proper and right to secure this nation. Because we've lost a lot of our posterity in the last generation, in this last decade. Just a shame what we have allowed. But I'm just saying, I'm just going to put this out there. What's coming? If we allow this, everything's a dream. The Democrats get what they want, the delusional fake world, where you can be whatever. It doesn't matter anyway soon, because soon the totalitarians will be moving in. They'll be setting their order, their way, their law. More than likely it won't be but within a matter of 18 months before they start killing all the Democrats and the government's actually overtaken and overthrown. If we allow the borders to be open, and foreign interest is already in our Congress, and eventually they're going to allow and they're going to transition military from foreign state into our military to dominate our military, to turn them against us and use them like they do in the totalitarian regimes. This is what's coming. There's thousands of years of history of how they do this. To anybody who's studied war knows. I know I have. I studied world history. I know. I see what's coming. I see what's coming. But are we going to let it happen? Because, I see the Democrats making threats at judges, making threats at lawyers, making threats at electors, making threats at governors, making threats at local commissioners. And I see the fear and the cowardness in the people being threatened. And that cowardness is what's spooking me. But in truth, let me tell you right now, as we've seen with Antifa out in Oregon, the cops, they can't handle a small group of 500 of them. They run. Los Angeles, California, you've seen the cops left their cars there for them to burn it like just a group of 1,000 of them. What we had in Washington, and as well collectively going on at the state capitals around on the same day, the numbers we have more than enough to deal with any opposition of any treasonous scumbag police in this country who are just going to follow the orders like the Nazis did. We have no real concern with them. Because you know what? Once they realize they're outnumbered, we've seen in Los Angeles, we've seen in Oregon, Antifa showed us they ain't no match. They're no match for a mass armed militant army of Americans. And an armed militant of us as the militia of this nation. We have many former military, very well trained. Okay, and we know what we're fighting for. Our Constitution, our President, our liberty, our freedom, our posterity, our children, our birthright of what we were born obligated to. We were born with the obligation to defend this nation and to maintain this nation and keep it secure for that of our posterity. That's the only obligation the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution lays upon us, the American people. We are born an armed people, a militant nation that is required by our birthright, by our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, to secure this nation for our posterity as it was made to be. To secure it as a constitutional free republic of self-governing people, with a government of the people, for the people, by the people, of a non-authoritarian government, one that's there to serve us at our consent. We are the power in this nation. One people of all equal. There is no black, white, or any other color or nationality. All this divisiveness between the American Indians, the black and foreign immigrants, Mexican, this, that, Italian, this, that. Look, if you're in America, you're an American. If you don't want to be an American and you want to be a Mexican or anything, go to hell back to your country. Don't come here. Because you don't come here to be something else. You come here to be an American. If you're happy with the origin of where you came from, what the hell did you come here for? And what are you doing here? If I was not happy and did not love America, my Constitution, my independence, my Declaration of Independence, and the heritage of the principles and values of this republic, I would not stay here. I'd pack my shit and leave. So, and then all the Americans, and I lived in Fort Lauderdale for a long time. I know many of the Cubans down in Miami from when I was down that way. They're Americans. They're Americans. You might reference them as Cuban American, but if you had a debate with them to where you say, to them, like, where's your heart and your pride lie? It lies in American with them, because they know the communist regime and the totalitarian regime of Cuba. Now, the land itself cannot sin, but it's the body of government that they hate. You see, in here, it doesn't matter where you're from. We're one people of all equal. We're just Americans. We have our principles, our values, and they're set and they're sound. And our Declaration of Independence gives us a right to tell the world either you adhere to them or you don't come here or you leave. And if you want to try and stop us from being able to pursue our happiness as we declare by our self-evident rights, we will go to war with you and wipe you off the face of the earth. That's what we should be doing with these totalitarian regimes. And that's what they know would be eventually happening if America spread. As we can see, we're 244 years new in this world, and we started to spread. Australia, Iran, okay, and you have like England right now. Great Britain was becoming like us, but even them, they're a democratic, pure democracy of elitist scumbags over there as far as the government. The people are just minion fools. They're already in the position that we're about to go into. They live in La La Disneyland thinking they have control, but they realized in the last decade they lost their right of freedom of speech. They've been having over there their daughters raped by Muslims like crazy, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. You don't see nothing on the media because these elitist billionaires now are sucking the money like crazy out of these totalitarian foreign regimes, and they don't realize, like Arabia, the Islamic Muslim states, and even China, they don't care about money. Their wealth is not in money. And they have plenty of money they will buy off and bribe you with. Their wealth is in world domination. You understand? They want to rule the world. That's what they want. And all these people who are taking the bribes and selling out their nations are going to be like in the ancient days of the Senate of Greece, when the Greeks did it. When it all comes down to it, what happened to them? They got their heads cut off. Once they were done, and they were, because you know what? This is what you stupid idiots don't realize. It's like a thief. A thief who goes in and he robs a store for $500. $500 isn't enough to sustain a lifetime. It's a wasted effort. The key is if you don't know how to make money, you're going to have to keep stealing money. And if you keep stealing, you're eventually going to get caught. See, crime doesn't pay. You can't never walk around free with what you got when you're a criminal. You can't really flaunt what you got when you're a criminal with what you bought with stolen money, because people are going to realize you don't work, you don't have no money. Questions are going to be asked, you're going to get caught. And the same thing with you people who are sellouts and treasonous, no good scumbag traitors in this country. What you don't understand is that the totalitarian foreign regime leaders realize you're a freaking traitor. You're trading on your... Do you really think they're going to trust you? I mean, this was the thing with the spies of Nazi Germany who fled, and they came here, and they turned, and they started, here. They became informants here telling us about... Those people did it because they knew we were kind of liberal, and we wouldn't do that to them. But they knew that their own people, what they would do to them, would be horrible, what they would do to them. And today it's even worse. When you get to the totalitarian regime of the Islamic Muslims, or if you look at the cartels that are running in Mexico right now, and the things that just go on across that border, it's those at the border, and Border Patrol, and those who deal human trafficking, you know what I'm talking about when you see, especially like in Venezuela. Now, I've heard about Venezuela being as bad as Mexico, But there's one thing I know about Mexico. You know, everything, even in the evil midst of it all, it's a Christian nation. There's only, I think, like 2,500 Muslims in Mexico. They won't go there. Because the other reason, too, Mexicans, they catch you raping their children in Mexico. Themselves, you know, some of the people, like, I mean, there's a lot of perverts, sick, disgusting, evil people in Mexico with the cartels, but there's also a lot of moral, valuable people who are of, you know, a coalition of militia there that are good people. They catch you, they'll feed you to the dogs, man. They'll feed you to the dogs. And they set a precedence out where you don't get much of that going on, like in their countries around that place, because people know they don't play around. And we've lost our fear tactic here. You see, we've become too liberal. And our government really has been getting away with it for 50 years. We don't hold the government accountable. I mean, when's the last time you heard of anybody actually really being impeached? When's the last time a politician went to jail for doing wrong to the people? These people have given themselves sovereign immunity and protection to a point they can pretty much, like we see with the Clintons, kill somebody and get away with it. Kill multiple people and get away with it. And they've been doing it now. And they feel so empowered. But I can tell you right now, it's a minority regime that they're building here. We are the majority as the people. And I'm just going to end this with that. I'm going to let everybody think about that because it's coming. It's coming. The reality is coming. I hope Trump does not succumb to this. I hope Donald Trump understands, because he sees what happened. He knows what's going on. And I can't imagine the man that I know Donald Trump is being able to just accept that they stole the election, they took this country, and that he's going to hand it back over to a bunch of totalitarian scumbags who are really in control of these Democrats. And he realizes foreign interests is in our own government right now and allow them to just overthrow our country. Mr. President, you have the military at your command. You have the home-based National Guard, and you have us, the American people, on your word. We came to Washington to let you know we can troop up and be there like that, and we can be at every state capitol just like we were that weekend. All you have to do is give the word. You know what's going on. The FBI knows what's going on. The military knows what's going on, and I think a lot of people know what's going on in the government. They're just a bunch of goddamn cowards that are being threatened right now. But I can tell you right now, the people making the threats, when the word is given, or when we, the people, decide to rise, you're going to realize you should have never, ever, ever woke that dragon. Because you're going to make a lot of good men and a lot of good people do a lot of evil things. And I'll tell you what, I understand one principle, and I'm going to share this right now with everybody who's listening to me out there, every patriot out there right now, everybody I met in Washington right now, and everybody we've been talking about for back and forth for years now. In order to destroy evil in this world, throughout all world history shows one thing. You have to combat that evil with an equal or greater evil for good intent. That's what you have to do. There can be no mercy, no compassion, no tolerance. Because these people have no mercy, no compassion, and no tolerance. We see what they do. And you know what they'll do to our children, our wives, our women, and us. You know what they'll do. So we have a choice to make, and it's coming soon. And with that, I'll leave everybody. Have a good night. And let's pray. Let's pray that justice by our Supreme Court is actually done. Because there's not going to be a peaceful transition of power over to socialist, communist thieves in this goddamn country of these worthless scumbag Democrats. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Believe that. We've had it. We the people have had it. Have a good night, everyone.